Welcome back to the program, and turning now to our political panel. In our Sky News Centre we have Deb O'Neill from the Labor Party and Andrew Southcott, a Liberal MP, joins us from our Adelaide studio. Thanks both for your time today. I'll start with you if I can, Andrew Southcott, on this issue of ISIL. We heard the Foreign Minister saying Australia's still weighing up essentially legal advice on entering Syria possibly and waiting for an invitation as well. Do you believe the US-led airstrikes are essentially legal that are going on now in Syria?
Well, certainly they're working on Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, and they believe they're on strong ground on that. But from Australia's point of view, we're focused on the request for support from the Iraqi government, and that's what we're principally focused on right now, and that's the mission we're focused on.
Deb O'Neill, Labor is indicating it's unlikely to support airstrikes if they do go ahead in Syria in terms of Australia's actions. Wouldn't that theoretically leave ISIL to go back over the border, have a safe haven, if you like, if that was the attitude that all countries took?
Well, I think we're well and truly out in the land of the hypothetical there. I think, we are really dedicated to making sure that the situation in Iraq is brought to some degree of control and in lockstep with the government and advancing in that particular field. I think the questions in Syria have been plentiful and they have been part of the public discussion around the world for a long period of time already. The reality is we need to deal with this ISIL situation in northern Iraq immediately, and then we need to see what happens as time passes. Clearly the humanitarian need in the entire region is profound, and just last week with a visit from a Turkish delegation talking about 140,000 refugees crossing the border in the space of just 10 days. The whole region is fraught with incredible humanitarian need.
OK, well, I suppose we'll wait and see later on if that becomes official, if Australia's airstrikes do begin in the next few days. Turning now, though, to this sale of Medibank Private, which we're learning a bit more about over the weekend. And Andrew Southcott, this is within your area, of course, as a GP. Why do you think this sale is appropriate, given it would be giving up annual dividends of nearly $500 million, and perhaps Medibank Private also offers as a bit of an anchor point, if you like, within the sector, making sure that other private health companies can't charge more and more for premiums?
Well, we've had legislation in place to privatise Medibank Private since 2006. Medibank Private was set up in 1976. There's no need for the government to own a private health insurer. We have 33 companies competing in that space, and Medibank Private have been operating along corporate lines for a long time. There's already a lot of competition in the private health insurance market, and there's already quite a lot of regulation as well with regard to the setting of premiums. So the government believes that we do not need to be a government owner of private health insurance, and that a privatisation and a float that allows mums and dads and institutions to be owners of Medibank Private, there's nothing wrong with that.
Deb O'Neill, it's pretty hard to argue against elements of that. It is already essentially a private company. There's nothing wrong with offloading it into private hands now, is there?
I think that these guys, the federal government, both the Liberal and the National Party in particular, simply don't understand the health needs of this nation. We're seeing it in so many dimensions of their health policy, cancelling and getting rid of Medicare locals right across the country, even though they said they weren't going to do it, the GP tax, and now, Medibank Private. The one thing that you clearly and properly described as an anchor on a getaway sector, they want to offer that up to. I mean, there's sort of nothing that this government doesn't see that they want to get rid of.
It's also not the cheapest company, is it, out there? If you want the cheapest policy, you wouldn't go to Medibank Private. So it's not the true anchor at the moment.
Well, I've never been actually in Medibank Private. I've stayed very loyal to my own one, which I won't disclose here. But the reality is people sign up and they stay with these things for a long period of time. The fact that it is in government control, that it does provide an income to the Australian population, is something that these guys need to pay attention to. I mean, they're still confecting a budget emergency, yet they're selling off something that's making money. It doesn't make sense to ordinary Australians.
Further to what you were talking about there, the budget emergency, the budget itself, Andrew Southcott, word that perhaps there's a compromise in particular on the 6-month wait for the Dole. Was that something you're happy to see watered down a bit? Was it a bit too tough, that possible wait?
Well, I haven't seen the report that you're referring to, but certainly Work for the Dole was a signature program of the Howard government. We do strongly support the principle of mutual obligation, and I think it's a principle that's strongly supported in the community. So obviously, if we're not able to get that through the Parliament, then it may have to be watered down. But Work for the Dole is something that we did see really eroded during the last period of the Labor government, and we do think it's an important principle that people should show a return for government support.
Do you think a case was made, though, a big enough or strong enough case for the government of that 6-month wait? Was that always going to be a bit of a stretch?
Look, ultimately, we did think it was something that at the time of the budget there was a bit of feedback on this particular principle. But the important thing is, Work for the Dole is a program that we are strongly committed to. Mutual obligation is a very strong principle that we'd like to see in our employment policies and social security policies.
Quickly, Deb O'Neill, will Labor come to the party and agree on perhaps the watered-down version of 1 month wait?
Oh, look, these guys need to go completely back to the drawing board. This is not watering down something. Now, that's not the satisfactory solution to this. What we know is Work for the Dole, the way that they had it before, didn't work. We know that job subsidies work a lot better. You put somebody in a job, you subsidise the employer to get them trained up and up to speed. That helps small businesses, it helps businesses grow, it provides proper, real training, gets people qualified and skilled and in the workforce. No Australian voted for this government to go in and say we're going to force people under 30 into 6 months of poverty. I mean, they haven't thought anything through. There would be no property owner who had an investment property who would ever let to anybody under the age of 30 if these guys got their policy through. They don't need to water this down. They need to absolutely chuck it overboard and go back right to the beginning, start again with something that respects the Australian people and doesn't treat them like a bunch of idiots, as this policy has indicated.
We will have to leave it there. Deb O'Neill and Andrew Southcott, thank you both for your time today. Thank you, of course, for watching at home, and stay with us for Newsday with Ash Gillen.